Hey everyone, in this video I will show you how I made this planet based on the concept by Gastón Pacheco. I will be covering modeling, texturing, and line art. First, add the reference image. Delete the default cube and add a UV sphere. Change the opacity of the reference image and scale the UV sphere to match the reference. To create a dent, use a knife tool. Press C to cut through the entire object, then delete the extra faces. Select the borders and press F to make the faces. To make the ring, add a circle and tweak it to match the reference. Select the edges and press F to create faces. Then press I to insert the faces and delete the extra faces. To maintain the planet shape, select the border edges and apply a crease. Then add a subdivision modifier and a smooth biangle modifier. To add thickness to the ring, apply the solidify modifier. Then use the bevel modifier to smooth the edges. And finally, add a subdivision surface modifier for a smoother appearance. Modeling the chair is a straightforward process. Start by adding basic shapes and adjust them to match the chair in the reference image. To add curvature to the back of a chair, press O to activate proportional editing. position all the chair components, add a plane axis object, and parent all the chair parts to it. To create holes in the back of the chair, select the faces. Press I to inset them, then press W, choose Loop Tools, and select Circle. To make the object solid, add the Solidify modifier. For a smoother appearance, add the Bevel and Sub D modifiers. Repeat this process for the other objects. To model the cup, start by adding a cylinder and change the number of vertices to 12. The less geometry you have, the easier it is to manage. Next, press Ctrl+R to add edge loops. Then delete the top faces. Select the bottom faces, scale them, and continue scaling the other edge loops to match the silhouette of the cup. To smooth the geometry, add a Sub D modifier. To give the cup thickness, apply a Solidify modifier. To model the handle, start by selecting the faces. Press I to inset them and tweak their shape a bit. Then just delete the extra faces and extrude the edges. Next, grab the edges and scale them along the x-axis to flatten them out. After that, hit W and choose Bridge Edge Loops. Select the opposite edges and press F to create the faces. Now press Ctrl plus R to add an edge loop. Select the two target vertices and hit M to merge them. Finally, select the faces, scale them on the y-axis to flatten, and hit the symmetrize again. To model the teapot, just repeat the same steps as before. To place the teacup, add a plain access object and parent the cup to it. Do the same thing for the teapot. To give color to our scene, we're going to use procedural textures. To create a pattern of the planet, use a noise texture node and a color ramp node. Set the interpolation to constant and use the stops to adjust the noise. Next, sample the color from the light zone, duplicate the color ramp and sample the color from the dark zone. To blend the shadow and the light zones, we will create two masks. Start by using a texture coordinate node, a mapping node, a normal node, and a color ramp node. Duplicate the normal and color ramp nodes to create the second mask. Adjust the settings of the normal and color ramp nodes to refine each mask. Use the normal node to change the line's position. Move the color ramp stops to change the line thickness. Finally, use a matte node to mix the masks. To blend the shadow and the light zones, use a mix node and plug the previous result into the factor. To create a pink ring between the shadow and the light zone, duplicate the mask and tweak the color ramp stops to offset the masks. Move the color ramp stops to offset the mask. To blend the pink rim with the shadow and the light zones, use a mix node. Sample the pink color using an RGB node and connect the add node to the factor input of the mix node. Finally, to blend everything, add a mix node. Connect the two previous mix nodes to its inputs and use the shadow mask as a factor. To create the circle material, first we're going to add a new material, select our planet, switch to edit mode, and choose the faces where we're going to apply the new material. Then hit assign. To create the circles, add a texture coordinate node, a mapping node, a gradient texture node, and a color ramp node. Set the gradient texture to spherical and change the interpolation mode to constant. Add another stop to the color ramp and tweak the position until you achieve the circular shape. Add two RGB nodes and sample colors from the reference image. To blend the circles, add a mix node and connect the color ramp to the factor input. To add the circuit outline, duplicate the color ramp and add an RGB node. Adjust the stops in the color ramp to offset and define the circle outlines. Use another mix node to blend the outlines, connecting the color ramp to its factor input. To combine all results, add another mix node to merge the output of the previous mix nodes. Connect the first color ramp to the factor input of this mix node. To add shadows to the material, add a diffuse BSDF, a shader to RGB, and a color ramp node. Set the color ramp interpolation to constant and add an RGB node to define the shadow color. Use a mix node to blend the shadow with the previous result, connecting the color ramp to the factor input. To create the ring shader, we will use three different masks. One for the rings, one for the shadow, and one for the shadow ring. Let's start with the rings. Add the following nodes: texture coordinate, mapping, gradient texture, and color ramp. Set the gradient texture type to spherical. In the color ramp node, add additional stops to adjust them to create the ring lines. The second mask is for the shadow. For this, we will again use a texture coordinate, mapping, gradient texture, and color ramp node. Adjust the mapping and the color ramp values to shape the shadow mask. To create the third mask, which is a shadow rim, duplicate the color ramp node from the shadow mask and move the stops to offset and refine the mask shape. To add color, start by adding a mix node and two RGB nodes. Sample the color from the reference image and apply them to the RGB nodes. To incorporate the shadow, add another mix node and an RGB node. Connect the previous result to the mix node and plug the first color ramp into the factor input. To color the rings, we need to separate them into two sections. Use this color ramp to create this separation. For the lines within the shadow section, add a mix node and connect these two color ramps to it. Then connect this color ramp to the factor input of the mix node. This isolates the lines. To color these isolated lines, add another mix node and an RGB node, and connect them accordingly. Isolate the lines in the light section, add an invert color node and a mix node. Set the blending mode of the mix node to multiply, then add another invert color node. This process isolates the lines in the light area. To give these lines color, add another mix node. Connect the previous result to the mix node and use an RGB node to define the color of the lines. For the chair, teapot, and teacup, we will use a basic twin shader. This shader setup includes a diffuse BSDF, a shader to RGB node, and a color ramp to control the shading. To create the star field, we will use three separate plates, each representing a different layer of stars. To change the background color, navigate to the Shading tab, select Shader Type, choose World, add a background node, and sample the color from the reference image. To create the star field, we will use the following node arrangement. To make the stars, use a text coordinate, mapping, Voronoi texture, and a color ramp node. To mask out some stars, add another coordinate, mapping, noise texture, color ramp, and an add node. Adjusting the stops on the color ramp allows you to control the number of visible stars. To color the stars, use RGB, emission, and transparent BSDF nodes. Finally, we will combine the shaders using a mix shader. Connect these to the factor input and change the blend mode to alpha blend. This layer of the star field features a different type of stars. To create them, use a texture coordinate, mapping, borrowing texture, and color ramp node. Adjust the stuff of the color ramp to mask out stars and modify their size. To color the stars, we use the same node arrangement as before: RGB, emission, transparent, and a mix shader node to blend them. To make the stars twinkle, we use a group node consisting of a texture coordinate, mapping, noise texture, and color ramp. As shown, the green indicates the presence of keyframes. To add a keyframe, select the point where you want to insert the keyframe. Press I to insert the keyframe. Move to another frame. Adjust the value and press I again, insert the next keyframe. To change the interpolation, go to the graph editor. Press A to select all the keyframes and change the interpolation type to linear. To combine this with the previous result, use a mix shader and connect the nodes as shown. To add the art line, press Shift A, select Grease Pencil and choose Object Line Art. To change the grease pencil color, navigate to Material Properties and sample the color from the reference image. If you encounter this issue, go to Object Properties, Viewport Display, and uncheck the In Front option, and repeat this process for the remaining objects. And that's it. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.